Hello, thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Louise Silva and I'm presenting on behalf of Julie Cornish and Cardiff and Vale UHB, the OMNIUM project and the changes in our pelvic health service. The OMNIUM project is actually two projects in one. It's developing a community pelvic health hub for our services, but also developing a digital patient aid interface in the form of an app to promote our service and work alongside the patient education that we're providing. Why was it needed? Well, pelvic health services provide care for all patients who suffer with some form of functional pelvic issues. And this can range from pelvic organ prolapse, chronic constipation, or bowel or urinary incontinence. And you can see that the prevalence is quite high in all of those figures. The good news is that more than 80% of pelvic health issues can be managed effectively with conservative treatment. So that means that only a small minority will ever need surgery, such as using mesh. And the reason it was needed is that our existing services were quite tribal. So you can see here all the specialists that are involved in pelvic health services, and we're quite segregated. So gynaecology team will have a nurse specialist and they'll have a physio. Colorectal will have similar, but we don't have a physio, so that means men don't have access to physio. Similarly with urology, we've got primary care inputs. Some centres may or may not have a dietitian, pain specialist, and also a counsellor. And the problem is a lot of these patients have more than one problem, so they may need to see more than one of our specialists. So they may be referred to the GP, and the GP may refer to them one person. They may be passed around to see other people. They're sent back and forth. And before you know it, they've navigated themselves through our entire services, but at great length and not particularly effectively. So we end up with our patient who's very unhappy. And obviously, nobody wants an unhappy patient, but it's a double blow for us in that we're so reliant on conservative treatments in managing our patients. Because if we've got a patient that doesn't trust in our service, the compliance with our conservative treatments goes down, and obviously their effectiveness goes down with it. And we did some work right at the very beginning with our value-based healthcare team, looking at a typical patient journey. And you can see here the patient was initially referred in 2003 for symptoms, but it wasn't until April 2018 that they actually got effective treatment and result that they needed. So in the course of 15 years, they'd had over 20 outpatients appointments, 3 different types of operations, multiple investigations, and you can see that this isn't very prudent healthcare. And we did some focus groups too. We spoke to previous patients. They said, I've seen so many different people. It was frustrating. I've had to go through everything again. But this problem isn't unique to Cardiff and Vale, and it's been well publicised in the wake of the mesh scandal that pelvic health services are ineffective. And also there was the Cumberland report in July of 2020 that advocated the need for one-stop pelvic health shops to promote conservative, non-operative treatments. So if we go back to our previous service model and the segregated services, we're wanting to almost break down these boundaries and consolidate everybody to work in one functional group as the pelvic health service. And we want everybody to be under one roof to promote the communication. And we also want our app to allow patients to transition easily between services and trigger as to who is the most appropriate clinician to be seeing them. So we started looking for a location, and this was at the time of the second wave of COVID, so it was quite difficult to know whether we'd be able to secure an NHS site or we'd have to go to a third party. As you can imagine, there was a lot of reshuffling of services, but we managed to secure Bury Hospital, and we've got 1.5 days a week with 5 clinic rooms, an MDT room, lots of storage, and also offices there as well. So these are just some of our clinic rooms. This is our MDT room on the left. And so we moved all of our existing resources and stock over there. The second thing that we needed to do was actually make sure we got the logistics right. So it was one thing securing a location, but would the flow of our patients be effective? So this here is a pathway that we have devised for patients with, I'll give you an example, fecal incontinence. So what initially happens is the referrer, once they've been referred, the patients will be asked to download an application, which will talk about our service and the importance of diet and lifestyle modification. The patient will be asked to report some baseline proms, and will be asked a series of questions which will help us know who would be the best clinician to first see them. Once they see that clinician, they get an intensive, tailored conservative program consisting of pelvic floor exercises, maybe nerve stimulation, dietary changes, and this is uploaded onto the app, and they get daily reminders for the next 12 weeks to complete this intensive program. At the end of the 12 weeks, they're asked to repeat the patient-reported outcome measures, and if they get improvement, which we're anticipating they do, they will be discharged, whereas if there's no improvement, they will move on to the next step and maybe have a different type of treatment. The next thing that we needed to do was to increase the amount of conservative therapies that we have. Posterior tibial nerve stimulation works effectively for both urinary and bowel incontinence, but in our previous model we were only able to offer it to females with urinary incontinence, but now because the service is being less devolved, we're able to open it up to people with fecal incontinence and men as well. So we've completed a 12-week course of this. We've also able to offer sacral nerve stimulation. We're not currently doing this at the hub at the minute, but the plan is that we will be able to do that in the near future under local anaesthetic. The other thing that we needed to do was to expand our team. So we have secured a dietitian as a pilot for 3 months to see how effective they are with the outcomes of our patients and how much the service is reliant on them. We've also secured funding for an extra physiotherapist and a bowel nurse specialist, and both of these jobs are currently advertised. What was a nice surprise is that we got additional buy-in from our community continence service. So they've always been involved, but due to changes in their workload from COVID, they've been more involved than we initially anticipated, which has been great and helped transition our services into community care even more so. The final thing that we've been doing is developing the app, and we're near finalising the app programme for incontinence, constipation and urinary incontinence. So we've been working alongside commercial stakeholders such as Medtronic and the Patient Journey app, who was our app provider. So we had a hiccup in the beginning in that our initial app provider didn't secure funding fees for our proms, so we had to change. But actually this was a silver lining, and it meant that we were able to fully design this app, and it completely aligns with our service. So the results so far, we are very much in our infancy. The last 9 months have just been finally to try and get this, be able to deliver this. We opened our hub on the 7th of June. So far, we've seen 48 patients, which is more than double what we were seeing previously before COVID. Initial feedback from patients is, this is great. I'm amazed at how quickly I've been seen. We're recording proms intrinsically within our service, and in December 2021, we'll do a full evaluation using prems and process data. We've got plans to be bigger. At the minute, only our colorectal consultant is working at the hub. The urology and urogynecologists have committed, but just due to job plans, they're not going to be able to start at the hub until August. We're wanting to get diagnostics such as ultrasound and radiology over. We're also planning to get sacral nerve stimulation under local anaesthetic, and we've got ideas for developing the app for chronic pain and other problems as well. We want to become a service model for all patients with pelvic health dysfunction, and we hope that we can apply this to an all Wales or national level. And what was quite interesting is 6 days after we opened the hub, NHS put this on their website, and that they're trying to develop health clinics to tens of thousands of women in England. And it's nice to see that here in Wales, we're already ahead of the curve. So our Bevan experience, well, a lot of the work that we have been doing, we started about 2 or 3 years ago, but it's only with having the Bevan Exemplar as a badge mark that we've been able to get noticed and been able to push things through. One of the things I've learned is be inclusive, but you can't wait for everybody. People have their own deadlines, and you need to get things going. So if people don't come back on you, don't wait for them. You still need to push ahead. The other thing is that accept that you need to start somewhere. On the 7th of June, it wasn't our finished article, and we've got loads of areas of improvement. But if we strove for perfection, we wouldn't be where we are now. And finally, be persistent. I've got one final slide, and my team really won't like me for this, but in the world of COVID, this is the only way we can really all get together without masks on. But a big thank you for them for pushing them forward in all of our planning meetings, and also to the Bevan Exemplar Experience for their help in pushing the service through. Thank you.